Hello, today I've got a really exciting interview that if you're a Unity game developer, I think you're going to be really into, or if you just like playing platformers or old 8-bit games or just fun stuff. Carlos Gonzalez created this game, Failand, and I've been playing it all morning and having a blast with it. It really is a lot of fun, and it's coming out tomorrow on Steam. If you're watching this after today, then, well, it's already out, and you should go check it out because it is definitely very cool. Today, we're going to talk about the process of building that game, building it solo, building it in Unity, and what kinds of problems and different things came up, what systems and stuff were used, and game design stuff as well. This should be a really fun, exciting conversation. I'm very excited to have it. So thank you very much, Carlos, for both creating the game, which I've been having a lot of fun with, and for being here to share your experience with us.
No, it's my pleasure to be on Jason Weimann show. I'm really glad that I'm given the opportunity to be here today and present my game. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a really cool game, and I think before we get into all of the cool technical stuff, it'd be interesting for everyone to just kind of know what the game is. So can you explain, give a brief overview of the game that you've built, what Failand is, maybe what the inspiration is, what it's like? I mean, to be honest, it's really well polished, and when I played it, it was a lot better than I expected. So it brings back a lot of memories for me. But I'd love to hear your take on it. Where did it come from?
So, action adventure RPG in pixel graphics is main inspirations in Zelda 2, the only Zelda platformer game, and also Faxanadu is a game from NES. I don't know if you played it, but it's also an RPG side scroller. Both games I used to play when I was very young, and I didn't fully understand them, and I thought they were very inspiring, and I kind of created my own version of my fantasies of what they were really about because I couldn't understand the plot. So yeah, that marked that made a mark, and also so yeah, those are the main inspirations, and yeah.
That makes sense because when my wife was watching me play it just a little while ago, she goes, "What is that? It looks just like Zelda," and I'm like, it seems like kind of the inspiration. It was it's very fun, and like I said, it's really put together. A lot of times when you see a game that's built by a solo indie developer, there are gaps and things missing, but I found it to be a really solid experience so far. I'm only maybe an hour or so in, but been having a lot of fun going through the process of finding, exploring, and unlocking different stuff. Actually, I have a spot I'm stuck at. I'll have to show you later.
I want to clarify something there. When we compared, we talked earlier. I mentioned that I started solo, but no, so that I did a Kickstarter campaign 5 years ago, and we have a team. So yeah, that was just the first learning experience with game development, and kind of how I started with my journey. And yeah, I'm glad that you find that it's polished and that it has many exploration features and combat features and such.
It's really well put together. Can you can you give a little bit of info about the team? How big is the team that put this whole game together? Is it just you and like one or two other people? Is it 50 people and a giant budget? And how long has it taken, like from start to like from the initial concept to where you're at right now, just about to release tomorrow?
Well, let's do it. So the whole journey. Okay, let's start from the beginning. I started the game by myself in 2014. So when we are releasing tomorrow an early access through Steam, but we'll be gone through the development for the rest of the next year, and we plan on finishing it next year during the 2024. So in 2024, it will have been 10 years since I started working on Failand. Yeah. Back at that time, I started with Construct, the game engine, and yeah, just putting together the concept, and then I started assembling a team, and then took it to Kickstarter in 2018. In 2018, it's 5 years ago. Yes. Then I was able to put together a bigger team, or new people joined the team, and we've taken it from there to here. Yes, so there's there has been some animators have come and gone in this process. Some developers,
Of course.
but yeah, there are 12 people currently working. There are two music composers, one writer, four or five animators, and um, two background artists, two designers. Yeah, myself. Yeah, so that's how it's composed more or less.
And how big did you say the engineering team was?
The engineer, like the programming.
Yeah.
It's myself mainly, and a programmer. So we're two mainly programmers. Yeah. So
Okay.
basically, after I am the right now I'm the creator and director, but yeah, most of half of my time I am programming, and the rest I'm overseeing the art and getting everything, sending work. I'm also a producer. So
You get to fill all the roles, and I guess that's probably part of a side effect of the way that when you started out solo and slowly building up, you start off, you've got to do everything, and then start unloading those tasks. I'm curious, which of the tasks, like what was the first thing that you brought another person in to help, or whoever came on board, however they did? Was it design? Was it art? Was it something
yeah,
else?
it was basically at the same time was a background artist and animator.
Oh,
Yes, I think yeah, that was for the Kickstarter. Probably the first two. Yes, yeah,
all
and
right, yeah.
the animator is continues to be the same animator that I joined back then in 2017, and he's like the lead animator. He's very talented, and I'm really glad and lucky to count on really on the full team. Like everyone is really. I'm really glad that.
Yeah, the animation is definitely solid. I noticed that 'cause a pixel art game, it kind of don't. I don't have super high expectations for the animation usually, and it was definitely above what I was expecting by quite a bit. It was really cool just watching the little dudes, especially when the monsters started appearing, popping up and dragging around axes. It's definitely cool stuff. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. Now, for anybody who wants to grab it before we get into technical stuff, where should they go get it? Is Steam the best place? There are other places to grab it?
Yes, so tomorrow we'll be launching on Steam via early access. So it'll be only on Steam for this early access phase. Then we'll probably start porting and bringing to consoles, but one step at a time. It will be after we finish the early access cycle, and then yeah. So that answers your question. We're also I want to also talk a little bit about the early access phase at this time.
That's what I
Um,
was wondering. How much of the game is in early access right now? Because, like I said, I'm an hour in. It seems so far I haven't missed anything. That I don't see any gaps yet. But how much more is being added, and where are you at now?
Okay, so the early access upon release tomorrow will have two chapters out of six chapters, so it's like 30% of the game. We'll be then adding each chapter progressively over time, and we are thinking that the process will take about around a year. We are yeah we are bringing the game to early access now because. Well, in the past, when we started the Kickstarter campaign, we also shared a prototype build, and it was really a very good experience to have people play the game and share feedback. And we also saw gameplay videos and all that. It was really helpful. And I think early access will really allow us to, because we are a small team, and will really allow us to get this feedback. Like right now, we have been in touch with some press and YouTubers, and they played the game for like just a couple of weeks. And just from that feedback, we have made like 20 iterations on the game, and we have polished so many details that are that really changed a lot the perception and the feeling of the game. Um, so and also, of course, the every fund that we can get through this process, it will be will help a lot during the future of development, definitely. So both things that we definitely took into account to make this today. And even when we started Kickstarter campaign, we kind of saw going into early access at some point in development. So it was like already foreseen that this would be a good fit. Even though the game is the exploration style is mostly like a Metroidvania game where there's one world that everything is connected. Um, the story is progressive, so it has a main quest, kind of linear, like one thing leads to the other, even though there are some side quests that you are following a path in the storyline. So this allows to do like an early access and kind of have different chapters, even though some areas are inaccessible. Yes, that's the idea.
You get to them later. I mean, it does so far. It doesn't feel like the an early access, like a typical one. It just feels like the beginning of a game. And I think that the genre and the game style works really well for early access. There are game types where I don't think it works great. You're building out like an RTS or a city builder or something else where like you kind of want access to all the core things. For this, it's progressive, so you're going through, exploring more, getting more stuff, and you've got to spend quite a bit of time. On that note, is there like an estimate of how long in time the game is? Is it like, I'm like I said, about an hour in. I'm relatively slow, but like, how long would you expect a normal player to go through in like a chapter or two?
Well, we have found in some feedback that players are taking like around 3 hours for this content, for these first two chapters. So the final game, going through this, going with this math, it would be like 10 hours, 10, 11, 12, maybe if we expand more about with the side stories, maybe and side content, maybe it would be, but probably be between 10 to 15 hours to finish the game. But right now, you can expect like 3 hours. Depending if you are really good, if you're really skilled, then of course it will be less.
It'll
But
be more for me.
yeah, for some players it will be more. Yeah.
Yeah, I die to even the little plants that pop up, keep killing me. I'm like, oh, shit. One of these days, I will remember that they're there. So before we get into technical stuff, I just want to remind everybody: go grab the game, go try it out on Steam if it's not out yet, which probably is. Just go grab it, check it out, and give them your feedback. Let them know things that you think could be better and cooler for the final version of the game. Don't do that in the review. Send an email and let them know in the review. Let them know all the awesome stuff. And yeah, definitely go try it out because this is going to be fun discussion, I think, on the more technical side, and it's worth it just for that. Go play it so you can understand what it is we're talking about when we get into these more technical things. So I wanted to jump a little bit into the development. You said that you started in 2014 with Construct. And then it sounded like in 2018 the Kickstarter kicked off. Is that when you made the jump to Unity, or was that before then, or how did that process go about? When did you decide this is what we're going to go with? And also, I'm curious, like, what was it that made you decide to go with Unity? I know in my case exactly what made me start with it, but I'm curious what yours was.
Right. So yes, the jump was made after the Kickstarter campaign. We had lots of requests, and we kind of foresaw this at the time, but we had a lot of requests for Failand to come to consoles, Nintendo Switch and such. And porting from Construct to consoles wasn't. I don't know how it is these days. I don't want to, but yes, at that time that was the main limitation that we found with Construct. Uh, Definitely, Unity has been. I can talk more about that later, but has been a way better jump, just not for porting, but like it's a very much more professional game engine that, and we have access to so many tools that we did have some limitations. Maybe, um, yes.
That makes sense. That was pretty much the reason for me too. It was platform support. They had support for the platforms that we wanted to be on, and had technical support for all the stuff that needed to do. And consoles is a definitely big one. Consoles and mobile stuff. Before I forget, I also wanted to ask you, because right when it popped up, I was like, okay, you got your logo right there in the middle of the tail games, and then Unity, and then Fmod, and I was like, okay, I gotta just ask about the Fmod thing too, because my buddy Jason Story loves Fmod, talks about Fmod every single time we talk. Whoa, I'm out of focus, and I'm curious, what was the leading for that? Is that something that just your sound composers liked? Is it just a tool that you're a big fan of? Is it something that everybody hates and you just wish wasn't in there? What's the story there?
No, really not a picture of the use. It was recommended by the sound designer. His name is Eric Weimann. He's also a music composer. We have two music composers. One is Shannon Mason, also known as Pumball. She lives in Canada. This Eric Weimann is also a music composer. They're both very talented, and he's a local composer here in Miami. I'm also in Miami. And then he recommended this, and it was such a big jump from Unity's standard audio engine, because Fmod allows you to it sees audio in a different way. You can have events for audio instead of in Unity you have to have like the sound clip to assign it. Let's say you're talking about a cobalt and an attack. You have to have the specific sound clip. Like you have to like in pixel art, you have to make it somewhere else, right? Like you cannot draw in Unity. It's the same with audio. You have to bring the assets already pre-made. But Fmod allows you to mix and create new sounds out of sound. I was having having to put a lot of work into maybe modifying some audio clips and seeing how they mix and seeing how they are distributed to all enemies and all that. And Fmod really, because you have a software dedicated just for audio, it's really handy. It's really look, you can see your music, then your sound effects, and you have, even if you're sharing the same audio clips from one enemy to the other, you can have separate events, and that allows you to do small tweaks to the same audio to a different enemy from one another, and then you really you can create a much richer game just with this tool, and it's really like easy or I mean, yeah, even I myself, I have made a lot of sounds, and the sound designer says, "Hey, you did all this by yourself. I'm not going to touch it." Like you can really create lots of stuff using Fmod, and it's really really good. I would recommend it to anyone using Unity. If it's a very simple game, then it's not needed. But if you're doing like a medium-sized game, I would definitely recommend using Fmod always with Unity. It's a really good combination.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid advice. If you got a good number of sound effects, it's something that you should spend a little bit of time learning. And from what I understand, with the latest versions, it doesn't take very long to get up and running and started, right? Is that kind of your experience too, that it's pretty quick and easy to get going with?
Yes, I also, well, I had an advantage that Eric already knew Fmod. He's worked on other games and he's done the audio for different games before. So
It does help.
I learned it in less than a week, but because I had him and he started with making the transition. But when he started, we already had lots of the audio was really advanced in their project using Unity audio engine, integrated audio engine. And we had to put a lot of work. Like it was like but even though it was like 2-3 weeks of work, both of us, you know, it was a lot of work, but because there was a lot of sounds, but the result it was really really something else, and that's because we did not start using Fmod since the beginning. Then it would have been a way quicker, way better.
Yeah, I assume you would have saved a bunch of time just starting with it right at the beginning, got all those time savings right initially without the that startup cost. Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people overlook because I mean, a lot of people like me just do their development with mute on most of the time. Don't even remember that there is sound in the game until somebody tells them to unmute, and you realize that only like half the things are playing a sound, and it sounds all weird and strange. You're like, ah, crap, gotta get back to that. Unless you got a dedicated sound designer, then in my experience, that's always been a person that's complaining at me that I haven't done the sound stuff yet, so they can get it like, oh, sorry. And it's my fault, not theirs. So I wanted to get into some more of the Unity stuff that I think people would be interested in. First, I'm just at the beginning. What version of Unity are you using now? Are you using the latest? Or you started in 2018, so that would have been like the 2017 or 5.6-ish days. So what are you on now? And was there any like specific point that you had to switch to, like where there like a thing that came out, and you're like, okay, this is the one that we need, and we're good?
Yeah, so yeah, I started in 2017 with the version 2017 point something, and then at some point I'm not really remember, I switched to a 2018 version. Can't remember right now why. But then we wanted to use the new shaders system, the new materials and shaders, and then we jumped to the 2019.3. The last that's what we're using now, 2019.3 something. The latest.
Oh, okay. It's working pretty solid for you.
Yes. Between the switch from 2018 to 2019, I noticed that timelines were updated. And before, in timelines, the tool to make cutscenes didn't have, you could not create events. They added that later. And there was always workarounds, but it was a headache. I'm glad that they added that. It's really a lot more useful with all these events that you can add, that you can just trigger an event and it will either play sound or something else happens. You can connect like it was a Unity event, so you can connect really to anything. You can connect to a script, you can call functions, you can do anything with that. And it's very, very useful.
Nice. Do you find that you're using a lot of timelines? I noticed you have a lot of really cool cinematics. Like I'll be playing, all of a sudden I lose control, lights change, enemies come in, my character goes and sometimes just hops in bed, but other times there's some crazy stuff going on. So is that all? Is it like a timeline for every single one? You just make a timeline and then associate it with some event, and the timeline kicks off and plays, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're using. We're not using any. We're not even building on top of the timeline with extra tools or anything. We're using the tools that timeline offers, and they're really solid and they're really allows to do anything. And the new event system is what really allows you to connect with absolutely anything. So yeah, we're using for all cutscenes. Where is the timeline?
That's nice. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the systems that gets overlooked a lot of the time. People will start to build their own cutscene thing or start to build out a whole thing for it and just not realize, maybe just use some of that built-in stuff. So, were there any things like problems that came up when you were working with Unity? Any like technical issues that you've run into and had to solve, or had to wait for a patch or find a workaround for, or anything yet? And it happens to me randomly, but I usually don't remember what they are.
Yeah, what I was going to say. I really sometimes, even C# and Unity, sometimes there are some small limitations, but there's always a workaround. I haven't found anything that I say, oh, I cannot do this in Unity. That has never happened. I think Unity has so many tools. Like for sure, build you have to build a lot of your own tools, but the fact that you have the ability to build your own tools is amazing by itself. I didn't have that in Construct, and then yeah, and then the what was that? Sorry, what?
Well, actually, can you elaborate a little bit on the tools part? Because I'm curious, like, was there a tool that was like the most useful thing that you built, or like any things that you think people should be putting into their games? 'Cause I think when you talk about like building tools for your games, people hear it like in the abstract, but if you haven't done it before, haven't seen what some of those look like, they may have no idea what that actually looks like what a useful tool is that actually helped and made things a little bit easier.
Well, very simple, like a tool, the main tool that we use for all the time is the dialogue system. It's like a huge tool by itself. It has to communicate with the inventory, it has to communicate with the quest system, it has to communicate with the events system, events that happen in the game. It has to communicate with everything. It's a big tool that you build, and you can go crazy with your tools. You can do like windows, connect windows with lines. You can do graphics. You can do any type of tool. That would be an example for a
Is that
tool.
when you built in house?
No,
Oh.
no. We're actually using an asset called Discourse. Discourse. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's an asset, and it's really. I like that it um, allows you to expand on it, and also it looks great and it's very well done in my opinion. I think yeah. It's not a it's a I think there are also out there some good dialogue systems. I checked a few. This one really uh, uh,
Yeah,
resonated.
it's a pretty popular one, I think.
Mhm.
I'm curious on one other thing, technically there. For your saving stuff, how did you? Is that a system that you're super familiar with and you wrote and you remember how it all works? So you've got for everybody, if you haven't seen the game yet, haven't actually played it, you can go in, create a new game, you get your new character, name them, and all that, run around, and then save at different points in time. But it's a big world. I mean, it's a giant story. There's a lot of stuff that you must have to keep track of. So how did you implement that? Is that something that you custom built a solution for? And can you give a high level of what that looks like?
Yes, yes. Um, okay, so the save system, because we are thinking about porting at the same time. Well, the first thing we did is we check what system we are on. So there is like an interface system that have the same functions, save and load, but depending on your system, on the actual system, then it will go to different scripts. So each console has its own scripts of how they save and how they load. For PC, it goes to the PC script. We made it because we really didn't need anything else than saving uh, strings, saving letters and numbers. We don't really need anything else. I know there's some assets out there that allow like to save game objects and position of objects and lots of different crazy stuff. But we only needed strings, like even for anything, even for the level that you are left, you just record the name of the level as a string and then load it as a string, and it will convert them to look for the asset, to look for the scene, and then to load in that level. So yes,
What
it's
about like the progress of the level? So like you've got the map and all of the explored areas. How is that? Is that just serialized off as ones and zeros for each chunk or something? Or
no. Okay. So the Metroidvania world is composed by different scenes, and they are Unity scenes. This is not like one scene with the whole game, right? It's
I
every
didn't even realize that. For some reason, I was thinking it was just one big giant scene. So
yeah,
each one of those is a separate Unity scene.
separate Unity scene.
That
Yeah.
make a lot more sense.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. At some point, we came to into that same. Do we do everything in one scene, or do we separate different scenes? It makes sense to make different scenes just to be able to work on one thing at a time, one level at a time, and then that made that is very useful to just
It
be
makes
able
a
to
lot of sense.
have
You get to do it
everything.
in isolation. You get that performance of just working on it. You don't have to worry about stomping on somebody else's change that's working on a part over there to the side. That's yeah, that is definitely a much better way. And I have no idea why that didn't cross my mind in the first place. Okay, so you save off which scenes you've been to then by name, and then that'll let you show the map. Okay,
Yeah.
that I get. Okay, that is very cool. So did you like that process? Any problems with it?
It was really simple. It was really simple actually, just to get the string. So it's like a line. It's a difficult line that you have to Google it because there's no way you can remember it. But it will, as a string, it will write. It will convert any amount of variables with strings to a list of values, variables, values, and commas, all that, and then it will bring it back and convert to actual variables. So it's just two functions to load and save. But from there, you of course have to expand your own variables, like the hero name is just a string, but also the inventory. The inventory that the items are scriptable objects, and then each scriptable object has a name, and we use the name instead of doing a scriptable object and then inside having an ID variable. The name of the scriptable object is the ID.
Yep.
So
I like that better too.
yes, because then it would be double. It would be double thing the word.
Yeah, and you can read it when you go to look at your data. You don't have to go look at this ID. It's even worse when they're the GUIDs with the 32-bit long or 32 character long, whatever. Like those are totally. You got to look at the last three and try to remember some arbitrary thing. I definitely prefer to use the name if I can. So I think it
Yes,
simplifies
and
it.
they're useful because the from the name we have an Excel sheet that is that you can localize, like you can translate. So just from the ID, there is the English name, the English description, the Spanish name, Spanish description, and so on from that ID. So it just yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more technical question on the scene loading and the transition stuff. How did you do that process where you go like you're in your house, you go out a door, and then I assume that's got some link to go to this other zone. Then you go to either side, and then it lets you walk through to another zone. Is that a process and system that you built on your own? Was that another thing that you found already existed on the asset store, or if you did build it, you can talk a little bit about just how that system actually works and how that data is created or associated. How do you go like, hey, I'm going from here to this other place when I cross over the zone line? Somebody that wants to maybe recreate this and is it not quite as experienced.
Question correctly. You're asking about the system to load a different scene, or
Yeah, to going from scene to scene, the transition from one scene to the next. How does that process all work?
well, this is also using Unity's own tools. They have the scene manager, and the scene manager has a function called load scene, and has a function load asynchronously. So when you there are in the border of the scene, there are always two doors. Even if you are in the forest, there's no ceiling, but there are two long doors. So that's a door. When you collide with it, it's the door is an actual rectangle collider that you collide with when you are outside of the viewing area of the camera. So you collide with it, and then it kind of magnets and brings, if the player is not walking towards it, it will bring it out of the screen. And then while just from the moment that you collide with the door, the scene will start loading asynchronously, which means it will start loading in the background. But there is you can pause the process when it's loaded, so it doesn't immediately load the next thing. If the processor, the CPU, and the memory are able to load it, then don't do it before there's some black transition happening. So it will wait on the black transition and then to load the next thing. Yeah.
And that's turning off that was like the activate on load option. You disable that and then activate it yourself afterwards.
After it's load asynchronously, you just I think you just load the scene and it will automatically. If you don't, I don't think you have to unload. Like Unity handles that. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that seems like I think a lot simpler for people that are trying to get this concept in their head. If you want to build a similar thing, I mean, really, you can just start with one scene, one level, get those mechanics down. And is that like, was that your process? Like, build out the first level, make that work, and get things working down, or did you build out the transition system first and then go to building out like jumping between platforms and all that stuff? I'm just curious, like in your initial development process, how you started. If you remember.
I do, but okay. I'm trying to see that. Okay, so the question is, when did I decide to go separate levels instead of doing a whole world, or
Oh
how?
no, I was just curious when you did the engineering part of it. Did you start with just like building out and making one level fun, or did you start with building out the exploration, like going from scene to scene and then work on all the mechanics?
But you mean like in the design way how the game is conceived?
I was just thinking more in the coding way of how you decided to go about building it. I was just curious. It's just in the order. Not that it matters at all. I'm just curious because I know some people who would spend a lot of time. They would only build one scene and they would focus heavily on like all the mechanics, jumping, fighting, and everything else before they built out another level at all. And I know other people that would build out a ton of levels and just have jumping and nothing else, and then start putting in all the things afterwards. So I'm curious, like where you lay on that. If you're like one way or the other, or maybe in the middle. You know.
Yes, yes, yes. I understand. No, I'm sorry. I didn't quite
I don't
understand.
know.
It is
It's a weird question.
the creative process, and yes, I see. Well, remember we because we jumped to Unity after the Kickstarter, so we had kind of an idea of the world that we wanted. Um, um, we didn't really have the world back then, but the we don't go. Yes, I see what you're saying. Like some developers do like a block out of everything, so you can jump and explore and have everything like a game loop, even without enemies, and that's a valid also way of doing it. We're not doing it this because we have the whole world is drawn in Photoshop. In Photoshop.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yes, and it has two layers. It has the exterior layer and the interior layer. And in the exterior, you can go through forests and towns and all that. In the interior layer, you go through caves and dungeons and the interior of the houses and all that. So there's two layers, and they're both in Photoshop. So the design process comes from the artistic and design view. It's nothing to do with Unity or anything like that. We have a plan of what we want to do where. Even if we haven't worked on this entrance to the city, we know that that's the level that goes there. We can work on work on finishing a cave level. So we don't really like have the whole world blocked because we have kind of an idea of what it would be like. Definitely, when you actually put it together, you can go back and say, no, this connection maybe wasn't exactly what we wanted, or this platform that we have drawn here is too high or too low. We can change that in Unity. But yeah, so basically, and even also because we are working towards an early access that we have to release chapters. It sure we have had a game loop already for some time already. So yes, a lot of things matter into this creative process about how you go about levels. But yes,
Well, it sounds like you have a whole design, which is I think a big benefit, and it allows you to focus and do the things right. And you see that in a lot of any big or medium-sized company is going to have design docs and somewhat of a plan. They're going to have design plan, production plan, and a bunch of documentation or some level of documentation going along with that of what's actually being built, so that people aren't guessing and doing the wrong thing and wasting time. It sounds like you've kind of got that down. Did you guys build that design doc like back in before the Kickstarter then, I guess? Or was it kind of like started before the Kickstarter and then grew after that? Or did you have this design doc like back in school when you were a kid and you're just like coming like, all right, here we go. I typed it up this time.
No. So no, back in for not even for the Kickstart, we had the full layout of the whole board. We didn't have that, and actually that layout itself has had many iterations by itself. Like even we now have a board that we are really, I think it's really well connected. But not too long ago, we had a game loop, and we had to like kind of come back and do some changes. To the game, to the whole layout, and with so yes, it's been a process. Um, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit, about the kinds of things that you've run into with design, any issues or things that you had to like redo? I know you mentioned you got it out in front of people and had some adjustments that you made. Is there anything that stood out as something you think other people might run into as well in their games, or that you thought was just interesting or kind of different? Thing that you hadn't thought about that you had to change, or anything that's just really difficult to design? Because I'll be honest, I'm a terrible designer. I just I ask my friends for design ideas and then just copy them down, because mine mostly just suck. Usually I'll tell them an idea, and they'll just keep going for like half an hour. I'm like, yeah, that's 1,000 times better than anything I had thought of in my head. I just had this like really shitty little idea. So yeah, can you go into that a little bit for people who suck at design like me, want to get better?
Well, design wise, it's been it's that Unity has allowed us many tools and everything. Like Unity has been great. The design process has been a really strong challenge. Even for I don't know if when you play you already got arrived to a town, but then there's a city. It's not part of the early access yet. To get to design that city, I was working with in the team we have an illustrator. He's a concept artist and concept designer. He's great, but we spent I think 6 months just working on that city. Every day there was a new version of that city, and we worked for months and months. Yeah, we also because we are, maybe the city is, I don't know, maybe it's too big or we are too small, or I don't know. Also at the same, also we did this like that maybe because we in Unity we weren't there yet. So maybe if the time was closer to have the city finished, then maybe we would have spent less time. I don't know, but it is a hard process to visualize. You can think of the city, but to actually visualize it and say this is the house and this is the inn and this is the store, the blacksmith and there. It's you don't need to work on that for months.
Trying to figure out why you go to all the reasons you go, the order you go to the places. So do you guys do that all in Photoshop, or is there some other external tools that you use in addition to that, or is it all just like you got a really good illustrator, so they just draw it out in Photoshop and come up with design change, they make the new one?
Yes, exactly. The illustrator works in Photoshop, Wacom, and just draws everything there. So yeah, because the game is 2D, you can draw everything in layout, right?
Yep.
It's way simpler than 3D. I don't want to imagine.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. What about when it came to the combat stuff? Do you have test scenes that you built, and how do you go about tuning that? Because I assume it's not just you in there testing and making sure everything's good. Do you have it so that it's tunable and your other team members can help you figure out how, like, exactly how high you jump and grab and all that stuff, or how the sword works and everything? Or
Well, there are a few things in there. So the jumping is actually has to do doesn't have to do with the player. It has to do with the world, with the tiles, and how many tiles can you jump to grab the ledge. And it has to do with how you plan the graphics to work. So these tiles are 30 by 30. They are not 32 by 32, which is a more common number. It's what the art needed. It needed 30 by 30 tiles for the character, the player character, and the interactions to work. Those are this is the size of the tile. And then that's what jumping is. What does that define more or less what jumping, the height and also the length and even the speed, the horizontal speed will change how long you can jump. So yeah.
for how far over. So jumping, you kind of, I assume you had to do that really early on, or
Exactly.
and kind of lock in how high, how far you jump, and then design the world around that. What about the like fighting mechanics and stuff? That must have been a bit more flexible.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, well, just to summarize the previous, yes, exactly. We had to define the grid and the size for the board, I mean, for the artists to be able to work on the time map. So everything, yeah, that had to be early. Now, regarding combat, I think what can I say about combat? Combat is yeah, many iterations have happened because of the player has different weapons. The enemies behave all differently. I don't know. I feel like it's been like just trying and error process. Like you want it to thrust down forward with the knife, and then you animate it and surely you will test in game how it looks, how it reacts, what is missing, what can be improved, and then even go back to the animation and change it and go to the maybe change the hitbox, the collision of the sword, the dagger, everything. Um, there is there is no specific process that I can tell you how to do that. It's just what you want to what you imagine that you want the character to move, and then see how that goes, and then iterate from that. I don't have a specific tip. Yes.
So did you have to iterate much on either of those from player feedback, or was it more from iterating on like story and guidance stuff so that people knew where to go and what to do? What kind of player driven changes did you have to make? Or were there any? I don't know. I don't know if you got too much feedback from other people. They were like, "Hey, you got to go change this," or maybe you will tomorrow.
Yeah. No, in the Kickstarter, definitely. During the Kickstarter, we started sharing the prototype, and we just for that build, we did have lots of interesting feedback. I can't remember specific ones, but I remember that we did a lot of versions during that month, basically, even, and then we left a final prototype version on there. But I remember that we used most feedback from there to what happened after. Like players wanted to the if you play the product, it will feel very different. You couldn't grab ledges. The jump distance was totally different. The physics, the how the player jumped and did everything. Even the combat, the combos, animation, and everything, it felt very differently. Um, so yes, we've used feedback in the past, and coming to more recent times now with these 2 weeks that we have been sharing with some YouTubers and press. We've had we have had specific feedback regarding like the boss fight and the player, even hitboxes, and just by fixing those, the game starts feeling different. even there was a sound like that was that was kind of annoying on the low. Yes, the low HP sound. It was like beep, 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 but it was like driving the players crazy.
I can imagine if it was constantly playing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
always low hit points, so
yes, and people there were we could see that people were complaining about this just in comments in the YouTube. Um, and that's something that we're able to tackle very quickly. Uh, so yeah, there are lots of. I think in feedback, of course, there will be sometimes smart and feedback that you cannot really implement. Like you don't see in the game, or it will be better for a different game. Like you don't really see a fit. But many times, I think the public is so exquisite also these days. Like they know how these platformers work in general, and people are really smart and give you general good ideas. And sometimes sometimes you don't know you don't know that there is a glitch or there is an issue with something. Maybe you have been leaving it there because maybe it's okay. That happens with many things, and then you start seeing this needs to be fixed, and then you realize I've never thought about how I'm going to fix this, but then you do, and then the solution instantly comes to you, and then you do it, and it's the learning.
yeah, it seems like you've got it down. Like I said, the game feels really polished. It feels like a good, just solid platformer. And I think it's funny you talk about issues that you don't realize are there. It always cracks me up when I see game developers go through like a magic process of hitting a bunch of keys and stuff to make things work. And like, well, what the hell did you just do? Like, they start up their game and they got to go through 6 different menus with shortcuts and do everything before it works. Like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's this whole process. Yeah, I've seen some really bad ones, especially early on development. Usually people get called out before it gets out there, but it gets bad. Yours, like I said, it's definitely great. So before we go, I got 2 more things. First, where can people buy the game? Because I think that everybody should go grab it. If you're a Unity developer, go grab it. Support another Unity developer. Give them your feedback. Let them know what you like. But where's the right place to get that?
Steam.
All right. We'll link that down below too. I've already got it. I'm going to be playing it probably a little bit more today and tomorrow. It's definitely a lot of fun. I want to get through at least the first part before the full game comes out and then kind of watch for the early access updates. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was how to get past the part that I'm stuck at right now, which is, oh, I'm an idiot. I forgot that I couldn't jump up here the first time I came. I never tried going up that way. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm terrible at video games, so I'm glad I've got some help going in the correct direction. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited to go finish and get through the next part. I may send you an email with a help request when I do something stupid again. But thanks again. This was awesome. Please, everybody, go grab Failand on Steam. Go leave a review. Send back your feedback. Let them know what things you really love, what things you think could be improved on, so the game can be as perfect as possible when it comes out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and all that stuff. All right. Thank you again, Carlos. Any final words?
Thank you very much, yes. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I think you're doing a great job. I have like watched your videos many times to like look for individual
Thank you.
specific answers to some questions. Yes, and even the programmer also knows you too. Yeah, I think you're doing it because I am a self-taught programmer. I do value much the work that you and the community does in Unity, and also the forums in Unity in general. That every question that you have, you go there and you see either the C# code or everything, you go there. But I definitely I'm more like a video. I learn more from video than reading, so I definitely like what you're doing, and yes, definitely to follow.
Oh,
I follow you, and yes, see the reviews and everything. And always, because Unity is so big, there's always so many things that you can learn. Yes, it can be used for architecture even. So it's huge, and yeah, and it's a great software. I'm in love with it. I advocate for Unity, and I think that was a great step, not just for Failand, which is now way better game because of it, but also for the future of tech games in the next game. So I hope to be using Unity for a long time. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I've ever since I discovered I could build stuff in Unity, been super excited with just how simple the process is and how quickly it can get something up and running, and then also as it is to just build something with other people. And yeah, the learning stuff, I'm 100% with you. Video is the way to go for me too. I gotta like see it, hear it, and experience it all at once to really absorb it. I read things and then I gotta read it again and read it again, and like it takes me like 4 or 5 times of reading it before it sticks. But a video, if I'm watching and paying attention, sticks well. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and go grab Phelan on Steam and check it out. Leave a review, and we'll see you again soon. All right, bye everybody.